Hey, everybody, it's me, John Ward, and welcome back to another Two Filmmakers Talk About One Film. And today, my guest is,
Jonathan Moody.
yay, Jonathan Moody. Welcome back. And
Yeah, thank you.
we're welcome. And you are here because of Brats, and that's what you have up on your screen there is
Yes,
Brats.
I do. Yep.
You also got some like advertising for it there because it's on Hulu. It
Yeah,
starts June 13th,
it was a banner for Hulu, I guess.
but it's appropriate because we're going to be discussing all those people. So,
Yep,
um,
pretty much.
how did you hear about the documentary?
Online, I think, like through Facebook, probably somebody promoting it.
That's how I heard about it. Was I think yeah, it was one of the ads on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, what's this? This is interesting
Yeah.
because you're younger than me, so this is my time period. I
Mm-hmm.
saw all these movies in the theater. I made fun of them while going to see them, and the
Right.
audience was always packed for the most part. Um, so these are the movies that I really grew up on and knew. And this is before the internet and all that. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
80s. So you just heard about stuff in magazines and newspapers. It's not like today where if one of them farts, you hear about it.
Right.
It had to
It's
be
not
kind
in
of a big deal for it to.
it was in Variety or something maybe, but but the newspaper Variety, but it wasn't online everywhere.
Yeah. And this all came from one article that was
Hollywood's
written.
brought back. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the New York, the New York.
I forgot what it was, like New York Post or something. I'm not New York Post, New York Magazine or something.
Uh, we both watched the documentary. We should
I
know
know. We
this.
should have we should have recorded that as like or wrote that down. I'm not sure. I gotta look that up too. Hold on.
So it
Uh
was written by David Blum and it was in New York Magazine. This came out in 1985, and that changed everybody's lives.
mm-hmm.
And that's where the name came from, was from this one article. And what I found interesting about this is um, you can compare this in certain ways to the Rat Pack, which is brought up a couple times in the documentary. Oh, look, hey, there's your mug. Uh,
Yeah.
um, and show that to people. What's that mug?
Well, I've got a indie film cafe. That's my podcast that I do with my co-host Paul Presenza. And then
Beautiful.
so I wanted a back of the mug. I'll wait for John to come to show the back. No, I don't know if you've seen the back of it because usually I just show the front.
Well,
So
I made my own, and that's what I'm getting right here
right.
because I was happy to be part of
Nice.
your team there. So
Yeah. So
okay.
but you don't have the back where Ed Wood is on the back.
Oh, sweet. No,
Hmm.
I just put mine right on the front. So this is
Yeah, there you go. So we both got that. You should
yeah,
have put
nothing.
something in it.
I got water in it.
Oh, okay, good. So you can drink and I can drink. Yes.
Yes. Um.
I got
So
soda.
and Ed Wood had his own pack of Misfits, the
The
Misfits.
Misfits.
Yeah, the Misfit pack or something. But uh, and the like I said, the Rat Pack was brought up, and because if you really because they talked to oh my god, no, I'm fucking blanking on everybody.
David Blum, the writer,
Not
right?
David Blum. Hold on, it's they talked to oh come on, Timothy Hutton. Uh,
Right.
Later on, and Andrew McCarthy says you were kind of like the first because he won the Academy Award for Ordinary People. So I went, well, that's okay. So if we're comparing this to the Rat Pack, he would actually be Humphrey Bogart because Bogart started the Rat Pack, and they would play cards in his basement, and he would have celebrities come by,
Okay.
and eventually Sinatra came into it and took it over. And then that's when we got the Rat Pack that we know. So if he's then, Humphrey Bogart, that would make Emilio Estevez Frank Sinatra.
Frank
because he
Sinatra.
was the one that started this whole thing with the article.
Right, because the guy was really writing an article about Amelia. Like that was the original intent. And then it just blew up to something a lot bigger than anyone expected.
Yeah, the name definitely stuck, and we will never have that. The closest thing I could find to it is Judd Apatow, is like the Apatow camp or pack, where you could put Judd Apatow kind of on top, and then that would breach off to like, James Franco, and it would kind of go down through the different people that he's worked with, and you would have all of, basically the cast of Freaks and Geeks would be on top,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would kind of break down into, including like Adam Sandler would be in there, and you would have all these different, who would probably be even
So
higher up.
Steve Carell or Will Ferrell might be the first of the of that pack because because of 40-Year-Old Virgin, and Anchorman. Those
But
two
Freaks and
movies.
Geeks was before that, right?
That's true. Freaks and Geeks was. So would that be James Franco as like the start of it?
Yeah, it would be, yeah, like Franco. Then it would be
Seth Rogen,
Seth Rogen would be part of that.
Jason
Jason Segel.
Segel.
So it kind of be
Um,
anybody that's within that, and then it could maybe even go down to Undeclared a little bit, and then kind of
yeah.
start branching out, because then Jonah Hill would get involved. So you could kind
Uh,
of do a tree with them too.
would you also, because there was a try, like Eli Roth tried to do a thing called the Splat Pack. And it was a bunch of different directors who did stuff like it was him, like I think Robert Rodriguez and all these directors who worked together. I don't know if Tarantino was included because Tarantino's kind of a league of his own, you know. But yeah, it's funny to see like all these different and it's funny because like the whole documentary is Andrew McCarthy talking about how it affected him as a person, and because being called a brat. But when you look at it like a rat pack, like you being called a rat is not a good thing, you know? Like why is that? Why would Frank Sinatra like to be called a rat,
I,
for the
I
rat
think
pack?
I think because the card games were held like in his basement, there was smoking, alcohol, womenizing, gambling. There was all this, like there's that book called The Rat Patrol, which is about the platoon that's in World War II. So there's something with rat that maybe because it's underground,
Mm-hmm.
that you can, where it's affected, and then the author just kind of switched rat to brat. My theory on this with Andrew McCarthy is he could not deal with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
He had a mental breakdown or something. Drugs, alcohol were probably involved, and he had to go see a therapist. And his therapist is like, write a book. Write, get it out, just get it all out there for people to read. Write a book, which he did, which is just called Brat. And then it's like Brat and 80's story or something like that. And but yet, and I don't know how well the book did or not, but
It
he
wasn't
obviously,
enough.
yeah, he was still fighting with it. And so this therapist is like, okay, well, why not take your book and make a documentary out of it, and try to talk to all these people that you were involved with.
Well, I don't,
And
and this might be my personal opinion or whatever, but by the end of the thing, I still don't think Andrew McCarthy's over this.
no,
Like,
that's why. And it really bothered me, because he gets interviews with almost everybody in your picture there, except for the one guy who's looking off. And that's Judd Nelson, who was like avoiding him. And I think he's probably had the worst out of this, because he was an alcoholic for, I don't know if he is now, but he was for a very long time, and he couldn't get work. I mean, he made a movie called Cyber Mutt. I mean, it's he wasn't making good movies when I think he was one of the top ones up there, because he was starting to branch out with, like, From the Hip and other movies. So I think at the very end of the film, when when Andrew McCarthy picks up his phone and just goes, Judd, and it ends, that I think, and my fingers are crossed, I want a second film. I want him to interview Judd Nelson. I want Molly Ringwald to see the first film and know that it's a good movie, because I highly recommend it. And I want her to get interviewed. We need, like, Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey Jr.
I heard something there was about Anthony Michael Hall, I think, got asked to do it too, just like Molly, and turned it down. And he like, a lot of these people don't want to, like, they want to move forward. They don't want to go backward, right? Leah Thompson and Demi Moore and Rob Lowe and all of them that did get interviewed. I think they are right now at a time. I mean, because a lot of them, even Ali Sheedy, kind of didn't let it stop their careers, right? And everything. It didn't, like, affect their careers at all. And Anthony Michael Hall is just getting sort of his resurgence going, with his career. And I think he might feel like it's going backwards again, and he doesn't want to go that way.
I mean, I think that, well, the one I was most surprised about was Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Like, she absolutely had nothing to gain from doing this. And she seemed to be, along with Rob Lowe, who has kind of turned into some of these characters, like on Parks and Recreation. He's kind of turned into these characters that he's playing, that he's very positive about everything. That if Judd Nelson and Anthony Michael Hall and some of these other people, don't want to do it, maybe they should, maybe to kind of just, end it, to just make this the defining thing. Because I don't know if you remember, but Anthony Michael Hall and Robert Downey Jr. were best friends in the 80s. Like, if you look, they're in, like, a ton of movies together. And then Anthony Michael Hall directed Hail Caesar. And you could see the bags under his eyes, because he was like the writer, the director, the producer, the actor. I mean, he was in everything. And Robert Downey Jr. was his friend in the movie. So they were in films together. And then he took, Robert Downey Jr. took off and Anthony Michael Hall didn't. And then that, I think, kind of just ended that. But,
well, Robert Downey Jr. got into some trouble because he was into drugs and stuff. And
he
got
less
sent to
than
prison,
zero
and then
time.
and then he came back, and then he had his, like, resurgence. He had his thing where he, like, people took chances on him, and he blew up. And again, and rightfully so, because he, but and he's done interviews where he talked about, his drug stuff and whatnot. And then Anthony Michael Hall, sweetest guy in the world, by the way. I love him. If you ever get a chance to meet him, please
He's
do.
one of my favorites. I was really happy that he got Halloween Kills, but I hated the character.
Right. I mean, yeah, it wasn't. And I was kind of bummed out because that was Paul Rudd's character, or whatever. And
that
I
would
think
have been
people
great
are
to get him
hoping,
back, yeah.
yeah, it would have been great, but unfortunately, and then they could have, if that. I mean, they had money. It's not like they didn't have the money to. I think Paul Rudd was shooting one of the Ant-Man movies at the time, and so he just couldn't. But also, I don't know. I mean, I think it would have been fun, to see him in that role. But I almost don't think, like, because if you go up to Paul Rudd, he may be really nice to you about if you mention Halloween 6, but I don't think he'll, And they could have got the original kid, but I think he's not doing anything in acting and stuff anymore.
I don't think so. From one of the Halloween, like, anniversary documentaries, wow, no, he would not fit this at all. He's like this little Jewish guy with the curly hair, with the yarmulke. He's got, like, the round John Lennon glasses, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's the, especially if they go with somebody like Anthony Michael Hall, who's the exact opposite.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
looked
think
more
that's
he would look more like what I mean, I don't know if he'd look more like Paul Rudd. I think they were just trying to get somebody else. I mean, it makes more sense now if you have different actors playing that role instead of bringing back one of the original people, who played him. So I didn't mind that they had cast him, and I actually liked that. I was excited, and then I feel like it was almost a throwaway character, who and was kind of a little bit embarrassed for him, but like I mean he got paid, he's fine, he's happy, whatever, but
Yeah, he's in what I consider to be the worst one, but
yeah.
it's. But I remember back in when E is it E True Hollywood Story? I think I'm saying it in
Mm,
the correct order. They did one on the Brat Pack, and they interviewed him. He was one of the
mm,
new interviews. I think him, like Judd Nelson was new, Molly, at that time, I think everybody was new. And at the very end, it actually kind of choked me up a little bit because he goes, he goes, I'm an actor. All I want to do is work, and nobody gives me jobs. And I felt sorry for the guy. I was just like, that sucks. I would give you a job instantly. Like he was the standout in Edward Scissorhands.
mm-hmm.
Nobody cared about anybody else, but they're like, that guy, that's the geek. That's the guy from 16 Candles and Breakfast Club who looks like a friggin' linebacker. He's huge. And then
He's a big
even
guy.
Johnny B. Good, with Uma Thurman and Robert Downey Jr., he does play a linebacker. He plays like in high school, he plays like the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of bummed me out. I'm like, oh, that sucks. It doesn't sound like the guy's done anything bad. It just sounds
Right.
like nobody wants to hire him.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember all of these movies coming out. I remember seeing, especially the John Hughes stuff. And I worked in a whole bunch of movie theaters at that time. I'd get fired from one and then go work in another, and then get fired from that one. They're all the same chain. But yeah, they kept hiring me back because I knew people who worked there because we all went to high school together or whatever it was. And then I'd just do something stupid and they would fire me. So I was able to watch all of this stuff in the theater,
Yeah.
which was great. And that's, of course, one of the theaters where Cliff McMillan and I worked. I think we played Johnny B. Good.
Well,
Um,
it's
so
funny because you have that story with your theater, and I did that with the video stores. Like I would get fired, and then, like I got fired from my first one, the first time or whatever, for writing on the job, which I thought was stupid. I got fired on the dude's day off, the manager's day off. He came in later.
were
I'm
you
not gonna say who he
Ice-T from
was.
Friday? How
I
do
know.
you do?
Well, it was his day off, not my day off. But he comes in and sees me writing and wrote me a note, and I yelled at him, and so it's kind of my fault. But the dude got arrested later for stealing from the company because that's what he was doing on his day off, was coming in
Ah,
and stealing from the company. So anyway, nobody liked that guy, nobody liked that manager, and I got fired. So years later, I chatted with another guy that that I was friends with that worked at another video store that was from the same company and everything. And he we talked to the managers loved me, They didn't want to fire me originally. So they agreed to have me come back, and then I got fired again. Don't want to say why, but it was not good. And it was my fault. That was absolutely 100% my fault. And then so it was one of those things where, like, what is it in Scream where Randy, they say, I thought they fired your sorry ass. It's like twice. And I was like, well, I never got that third time. I never got hired again. So I guess I'm not Randy. I'm close to Randy. But anyway,
close.
I would go and I would rent all the Brat Pack movies. And it's so funny because you're right. So you said earlier that I'm a little younger than you. I was 3 when this article came out. It was 85 and I was 3.
I
And
graduated in 86, so I was 17 when it came out. So
yeah, so
that's a
when this
pretty
came
big
out,
age difference.
right. And so like what, 14 years difference or something. So I was like whenever, because you would hear the name, and that's the big thing, is like there was no internet at that time. So everything is word of mouth, right? And so people will be like, oh, that's a movie starring the Brat Pack. Or there might be like on a commercial or something, they'd be like, from the people who were in the Brat Pack, whatever. So you heard the name Brat Pack, and I always thought it was a cool name because I always associated it with the Rat Pack because I heard of the Rat Pack first, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. That's just, the Brat Pack, the Rat Pack. So I always assumed it was a good thing. I never once thought, and that's what I liked about this documentary, because there's one point in the documentary where they talked about how it really did affect a lot of them because the agents started hearing that stuff. So no, you guys cannot work together anymore. No, this is bad publicity, bad publicity. And they would not let them work together, which affected people's jobs. Some people like Demi Moore didn't get affected. People like I'm sure Emilio Estevez got affected at first, and then he just continued on with like Young Guns and things like that. But Andrew McCarthy, other than what is that one, Weekend at Bernie's, and Weekend at Bernie's 2, which yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about that one as much. But like Weekend at Bernie's was a big freaking hit for him and should have continued to keep his, stuff going,
But when I looked him up, he's always worked. So I don't really know, because it's by the agents not, and yeah, they do mention it in the documentary, by them not working together, they then, and this goes back to the tree, is they then brought other people into the Brat Pack.
Mhm.
So where you would have like in the Rat Pack, it went off to like Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, and they all kind of had their, Jerry Lewis would be in there, and you could kind of do this thing with it of the like the main guys, and then you kind of had the sub Rat Pack, and now they had the sub Brat Pack, and they do interview one of them, John Cryer, because
Right.
John Cryer was in No Small Affair with Demi Moore.
Well, he was
So
also in he was Ducky and
yeah,
so he
and Pretty in
like
Pink, yeah.
Pretty in Pink. So and Pretty in Pink is a Brat Pack movie, whether or not they want to admit it, because
Well,
of
and
Molly Ringwald
look who's okay. So it
and
starts.
Andrew McCarthy.
So Molly Ringwald and Andrew McCarthy would be here, and then
Yeah.
that kind of breaks into John Cryer, James Spader, and it kind of just makes it splinters or branches off all the way down, because all of these people ended up being in other films.
Well,
I
it's just
mean,
so weird to say because, like, whenever I think of the Brat Pack, I think of the people in the Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles. Those were my three Brat Pack, like, go-to things, or whatever. But because John Hughes made a few of them, do you think that all John Hughes movies, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is that a Brat Pack movie?
I think they're all connected. Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're Brat Pack movies, but definitely Matthew Broderick would be in that gravitational Brat Pack pull. Yeah, I would say that probably anything, because he even did Some Kind of Wonderful is just a remake of Pretty in Pink, and that's
Yeah.
Leah Thompson is in that one.
And they count
So
her as being in the Brat Pack.
yeah,
Which I'm weird about because, like, I guess Some Kind of Wonderful is a Brat Pack movie. I guess,
it has
but
to, because I have on here. So okay, so the actual Brat Pack. So it says here the core members of the Brat Pack are, that's Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy, Ali Sheedy, Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson. They
8
do say
people.
that that's one person that is normally left off the list, but they do consider it, is Mir Winningham. And they're like,
I've heard of her. I've heard of her, right? It's a girl, right?
yeah, she was in she should be, is she not in your, she's not in your picture,
Right.
but
Is she in?
she is in St. Elmo's Fire.
That's
She's
another Brat Pack movie. Uh,
Yeah, and that's which is what this picture is from St.
right.
Elmo's Fire. That's really where it began, because I think that's right where when the article came
But then
out.
is Andy McDowell, who's in this movie, is she part of the Brat Pack? I
No,
mean,
because she's older. No, so she would not be.
yeah, but how does that count? If Humphrey Bogart, who is older, I believe, than all the other ones, how does he get? I mean, I guess you said he started the Rat Pack, but like, he's isn't he older than Frank
He
Sinatra and all
would
of them?
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
So I'm
it's I think that I don't think she would, because she wasn't a key player in the film. She's the one that, if I'm remembering correctly, that Emilio Estevez wants to hook up with. Mir
right.
Winningham is the innocent girl with the sweater that's always buttoned up to her neck, and she's in love with Rob Lowe's character. And they start to hook up, and he sees that she's wearing grandma underwear and
Granny
starts to
panties.
granny panties and starts to laugh at her, and she gets embarrassed and leaves because he's just a dick.
I
Um,
hated St. Elmo's Fire. I'm sorry, man. I know a lot of people love this movie. My friend Vittorio brought it over because we had never, he had bought it, but he had never seen it. So we watched it and we were like, this is awful. This is a terrible movie. This is like, why is this so like and that becomes a thing where even him who's 8 years older than me, right? He didn't feel it for the movie, right? And I don't
well,
think
now who's
like
who's he?
art oh, he's my friend Vittorio. Like he is
Oh, your friend.
somebody.
Okay.
I don't think you've met him yet. I don't think he's been on any of the shows that you've been on.
Okay.
But he's a guy who's always would bring over movies on like Sunday night. Sometimes I talk to him about him probably to you, like, oh, I'm gonna be watching a movie with a friend on Sunday nights. And we do this, we've been doing it for years since, good God, since before the 2000s, I think. He's been coming over to my house and doing this. So it's been a long ass time. And we've been watching, we'll watch movies every now and then and just see. And he brought Scene Almost Fire over, and we're just like, this is not a a great movie. And we watched the Bratz movie together. That's who I watched the documentary again. You're like, oh, you're watching it again? And I was like, well, I want to be more. I want to,
I almost watched it again if I didn't
yeah.
have other videos that I had to watch for something else. Um,
But
I
yeah,
think kind of like The Room and The Disaster Artist, you should watch back to back. St. Elmo's Fire and Bratz, you should watch back to back, because
I
that's
just didn't
where
like
this
it.
whole thing. It's very conservative. It's very privileged with the type of characters. None of these
Hmm.
people are poor. They're all, Judd Nelson, I think, works for a congressperson. He and so his character is always in like the suit and tie and stuff. Um, it's a I need to rewatch it. I remember the song and the video were a big thing, and they do mention that in the documentary, because that's back in the day when the actors would be in the music video, kind of like Dawkins for Nightmare on Elm Street, like they had Freddie in it, or Jason was in the Alice Cooper one, and
Hmm.
those are the good old days of how you made music videos back then. And but it's yeah, because this is coming off of like 16 Candles, Breakfast Club. If you even go back, the Bender character from Breakfast Club is Judd Nelson in Making the Grade, which was a year or two before Breakfast Club. It's the exact same character. He's even
Hmm.
dressed the same. And even some of his lines are from Making the Grade, which I love.
Okay.
I love that film. It's got a great soundtrack, and
I
I
heard of it, but I don't know it offhand. I'm looking that up real quick. Making the Grade. Is it
yeah,
available on a streaming channel? I might want to check that out.
I think it's MGM if I'm
Yeah,
remembering
so it's
correctly.
only rentable or bought by or buying by Amazon. Can't even, yeah. It sucks how many of these movies just kind of fall under the, don't get streaming right now. Like that movie, there's also a movie I believe called Class.
Yeah, yeah, and that one is that has John Cusack, who would also be considered. So if you look at the okay, so if some of the actors that are considered to be part of the Brat Pack, but they're not the core members, would be Charlie Sheen,
Charlie Sheen.
Ralph Macchio,
Well,
Kevin
why
Bacon,
Ralph Macchio?
Karate Kid, Karate
Wait,
Kid films.
why did
Oh,
the karate?
because he's also in the Outsiders, which stars almost all the guys.
But then Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise,
Tom, okay, you mentioned
Matt
Tom
Dillon,
Cruise. So
like,
uh,
are all of these guys Brat Pack members?
Tom Cruise is mentioned, Kiefer Sutherland, Matthew Broderick, John Cusack, Matt Dillon, and they do mention Robert Downey Jr. They so these once you got because absent from most lists is Mayor Winningham. It says that right here. You also have James Spader, Robert Downey Jr., because they were with Andrew McCarthy in Less Than Zero. Of course, so was Jamie Gertz. James Spader was with McCarthy in Mannequin and Pretty in Pink. Rob Lowe is in Bad Influence, and that's with James Spader, I believe. Molly Ringwald, Pretty in Pink. Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Michael Hall are in Weird Science, Johnny B. Good.
Molly Ringwald was also in 16 Candles and a billion
and
other
then
movies. I mean, Breakfast Club. I mean, geez.
This may be something you don't know. Robert Downey Jr. and Anthony Michael Hall were on Saturday Night Live.
I did not know that.
Not as guests. They were part of the cast. They were on for 1 year, and that entire cast was fired. Anthony, so then you got Molly Ringwald in The Pickup Artist, which I also believe is Robert Downey Jr., directed by his dad.
Yep. I remember I actually watched that movie, and I think it was on Tubi or something at the time, and so I watched it, and I was just like,
it's not good.
It's sad because I wanted to like it a lot more, but I think it just wasn't good enough. Like it could have been a lot better, and stuff. And I don't like, bummer because I like that movie, or I want to like that movie.
It's an interesting film, that's for sure. So let's see. So they mentioned Kevin Bacon again, Matthew Broderick, John Cryer, John Cusack, Joan Cusack, Nicolas Cage, Jamie Gertz, Mary Stuart Masterson, Sean Penn, Kiefer Sutherland, Leah Thompson, Melissa Gilbert connects herself.
Are the Feldmans,
are
the Coreys a part of this?
No, they are not listed here. No, they would be in their own orbit of people.
Yeah, they did them. At that time. Yeah, at that time they were making a name for themselves, without being a part of a group. Like they were, but they weren't making. They didn't really do a group. Like they were in the Lost Boys, which has Kiefer Sutherland and Jason Patrick, and Jamie Gertz. But they didn't. But then they did like License to Drive, which had what's Heather, what's her name? I think it was the I keep forgetting she's in the movie until I just start thinking about the movie, and
it kind of seems like
Heather Graham. Heather Graham,
it's like with them, it's the women they're with. So there's the two Coreys and then the woman.
Yeah.
So it's like they stood out as who's kind of.
It was so funny because Nicole Eggers was in that Blown Away movie that they did, not to be confused with the Jeff Bridges Blown Away movie, but there was another one I think made around the same time that was like basically
direct to video. Yeah, I watched
direct to video porn, because it had like,
oh my god, the sex scene between her and Corey Haim was so awkward.
Didn't she fuck Corey Feldman afterwards, like in the movie? Like I think like that was the thing, is they both got to have her, and I was like, oh, I think it was probably when they were in development for the movie and the writer was coming to them. They're like, oh no, he can't just be the only one who gets her. I have to get her too. Okay, we'll have a sex scene for both of y'all, and oh my god, it was just cringy. It's gonna go on Indie Film Cafe at some point because it's so bad. Maybe we'll invite you on it if we can.
Craig Schaefer, He'd be another guy that would be
Craig
included in on
Schaefer.
this list. Craig Schaefer. A friend of mine, Eric, worked with him on a film where I forget the name of the movie. If I looked it up, I would know it instantly. I think it's like some Air Force film or something. He was a grip, and he actually, Craig Schaefer, had on-screen sex with the actress that was there. And as he's walking away, my friend goes, "You got one hanging out there, buddy." And one of his testicles was hanging out of his underwear. And he kind of tucked it back in and walked away. So
How do you tell people like that? Because like, you know how people say like they say something for your zippers down, you know? They say they have like a code for
oh,
when
there's
zippers
XYZ,
or XYZ,
your
or there's
fly
another
is down.
your flies, or you know, I forgot. Somebody said that once to me and I was like, oh, whoops.
Which is really never a big deal. All you're doing is just showing underwear, unless you're going commando. But
Yeah, or
you
unless you're
know,
like fucking, was it Ben Stiller, and you know, and there's something about Mary where you get stuck
oh,
with
that
your
is so
finger.
painful. No
Oh
woman will
God, I don't
understand
ever.
that. None, none.
No,
No. But
no.
see, we could just keep adding people to this list. And oh, my ex-girlfriend, Sanchia, who I've dated back in the day, she tried out for Mannequin 2.
Right?
Mannequin 2, TOO, on the move.
TOO
On the
on the
move.
move. Yeah.
Yeah, and she lost out to Kirsty Swanson, who could also be, once again, going down the, but she'd be way down here with those guys because she was also in
Did
the
she
chase with
didn't?
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, but she didn't. Yeah, she didn't get in there until later, until like the
That's why
90s.
she would be
You
like
know.
way
Yeah.
down. She'd be like
Yeah.
way down
I mean,
here.
but see, so can you still go like, you know, to the Brat Pack? Like, does the Brat Pack extend to like the 90s and 2000s and 2020s? Like, you know, if you worked with Demi Moore or Andrew McCarthy now, are you part of the Brat Pack? You know, because you work with them now, or is there like a cutoff time where all of a sudden, okay, these all people were part of the Brat Pack, all the rest of people are just associated, you know, in it by association
You would not be, part of it. You just want to be associated
with it. Yeah.
with it because it's kind of like Tarantino with Roger Corman when he gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award, and he was, Corman was surrounded by his normal group, and then when Tarantino hands him the award, he goes, am I now part of the Roger Corman team? Am I now
Roger
part of the
Corman
group?
Club.
Yeah,
RCC, baby.
yeah, and you're not,
You're
but
not,
you
because you
are
didn't
the
work with them.
guy who gave him the award. You love his work. You've obviously been influenced by it, which is why
Yeah,
you're there.
you know, it's funny because he didn't need to, like Josh Becker, who was a part of like Sam Raimi's club, you know, right? Because there was that group of people who lived in Detroit. They were called the Detroit Mafia. That's what they called themselves, you know. And that was Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, Scott Spiegel, and you know that group of people. And Josh Becker was a part of that group. You know, he asked Roger Corman once if he could, you know, if he had any work for him, you know. And of course, Roger Corman said, "Sorry, man, we don't have anything right now," you know, or whatever, right? But you know, it that if he had directed something for Roger Corman, yeah, he'd be part of that, group, you know.
Yeah, he would be like Steven
Francis Ford
Spielberg
Coppola.
is not, but
Francis Ford
Scorsese
Coppola is.
is. Yeah,
Coppola
Coppola
is.
is. Scorsese is. Uh,
George
um,
Lucas is not.
is not. Brian De Palma is not.
Is not.
Robert De Niro is. Um, it's
Jack Nicholson is. You
is.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Um,
lot of people back then that worked with his group. They weren't called something. They weren't called the Roger Pack, you know, or the Corman
no,
Pack,
he just had
you
his
know.
his guys that were his own misfits because, like, Nicholson couldn't get a job, because they thought he
Yeah.
was weird looking and sounded strange. But
Like
Corman
Ed
brought him
Wood.
on.
Ed Wood had his group of people, of misfits and drug addicts and other people who couldn't get work. And there's that line in the Tim Burton Ed Wood movie where he said, you know, uh, something about like if I didn't, I wouldn't have any friends if I looked down on people, or whatever. Because that's who he became friends with, people that everybody looked down on, and thought, oh, these people are weird looking. These people are, not gonna make it as and he didn't give a fuck, That's who he wanted to cast, And I love
Yeah,
that.
because so that's why I was thinking, today it would be
Mhm.
Judd Apatow.
Well, not anymore.
And so it's, well, that kind of broke apart, because what he has is like, Paul Rudd, who's been in 9 of his movies. This is directed and produced. You
Mhm.
have Seth Rogen, who's been in
Mhm.
7. Jonah Hill has been in 7. Bill Hader has been in 6. His wife, Leslie Mann, has been in 6.
How about Jason Segel?
This is a list, so let's see. He should be on here. Kirsten Wiig has been in 5. Where's Jason? There he is, Jason Segel. He's only been in 4, but he's been in other movies that are not related to,
That Judd
like
never produced. Like, I think Judd didn't even produce that Engagement, 5-Year Engagement movie. I don't think he was in that, So I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, if you look at something like, if we go back to the main guys, you can even look at something like, let's say, Young Guns, and we got, Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot
Mulroney.
Maroney, thank you. Casey Shamisko, Terrence Stamp wouldn't count, he's just cool. So those are like the main. Tom Cruise is even in that film, but he's in disguise. Yeah, in
And
addition,
what
Tom
film is
Cruise,
that?
Young Guns.
Young Guns, yeah.
Yeah. In addition, Tom Cruise briefly appears in a non-speaking cameo role as one of the henchmen. And then, of course, Emilio Estevez was in the first Mission Impossible movie. So you can look at, and even like Young Guns 2. Okay, so we have Emilio, Kiefer Sutherland is back, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, Alan Rook. We got that, from Ferris
Bueller's. Yeah.
I never really sure how to. Balthazar Getty.
Balthazar.
Yeah. Jenny Wright. She was a thing for a moment. So there's still all these people. Oh yeah, Ginger Lynn, the porn star, was in this. There's still all of these people that you could add to the list. Just, the tree.
But yeah.
Keep.
It was funny. I found out yesterday because my friend, my other friend Andre came over he was living out in LA. He just came over to visit for a couple weeks, and so we watched Melrose Place, the first pilot for Melrose Place, and everything. And Andrew Shue is in that, right? Well, I look it up and I find out 2 interesting facts. One, that I did not know that Andrew Shue was one of the Cobra Kai members in Karate Kid. So I need to rewatch that again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's one of the Cobra Kai members. He loses in one of the fights in the tournament, or whatever. And then because of Elizabeth Shue, which I think could be on the Brat Pack list, by the way.
Oh, definitely Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah, Elizabeth
I would
Shue's her
think
brother,
so.
or Andrew Shue's her brother. And the director of the pilot was Howard. I'm gonna fuck his name up.
Deutsch. That's how I always
Deutsch.
say it. Yeah, who did
Yeah,
Pretty in Pink and
and some kind of wonderful. Yeah, and he directed the pilot for Melrose Place. So if you're gonna have somebody who's gonna direct make a kind of a cinematic thing out of a TV show. You know, you may
And
want to.
he married Leah Thompson.
He did. He was in the documentary, which was really neat to see him, because they were both there, but they were separately, I guess, interviewed separately, which
I
that was kind of
love when
cool.
they're Andrew McCarthy and his film crew are in the car, and Howard Deutsch, will keep calling him that, is outside, and he just points at the cameraman. He goes, "That's going to be out of focus." Just
Yeah,
always the director,
yeah.
I didn't
When
think
he
he existed. I thought he was fake. I thought because he kind of took over for John Hughes. And I'm
right.
like, oh, I bet that's like one of those pseudonyms for John Hughes. Like he doesn't want to be known as making these movies anymore, and he took that name on. And which of course, I was totally wrong on that one.
And and he continues to work still to this day. So, and John
Yeah.
Hughes has passed away. So
Well,
that
and
would be
some of
very
these
weird.
people, yeah, it doesn't, like, Demi Moore was hugely successful. Emilio Estevez has become a director, and he's one of my favorite directors. I'd love to interview the guy. Rob
Mm,
Lowe has become a huge TV guy. I mean, Parks and
mm.
Recreation, The West Wing. I
He's
mean,
also in
oh,
films like Tommy Boy.
look, if you look way in the back between Rob Lowe and Emilio Estevez, that's Mir Winningham's head.
Oh, nice. Okay.
so
No, like
so she is in the picture.
all the what the
Right. Yeah, like right
there.
there.
There. That's funny.
That's her head. So the whole
Yeah.
cast is there. You just can't see her.
You just
But
can't see her. I'm sure she got a shot in that scene, or whatever, but not in that particular picture right there,
yeah, it's
Maybe that's why
probably,
they did. Maybe she wanted that one. She was like, use that one because I don't want to be in this.
well, it's also has all of them, but yeah, but her. Yeah, maybe she just didn't okay the picture and stuff, but it is the best picture of them, because this is, St. Elmo's Fire.
Right.
So that's the trigger movie. So the
St.
thing,
Elmo's dumpster fire.
pretty much, I tend to think, because if you look at Andrew McCarthy, and I looked him up, filmography, okay, man, this guy started with Class, and he's been making movies since 1983, all the way up to, well, Bratz 2024, but the last film that he did was 2019. He's been consistently working, some things
So
big, some things
is it
small.
just actors that count in the Brat Pack? Like, are any of the directors, like you said, Howard Deutsch directed a couple of things. John Hughes is really the one people know it from. And there's also Joel Schumacher who did those, and he also did Lost Boys and a few other things that
Yeah,
have
because he
people
directed
who,
St. Elmo's Fire. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like wondering if that counts or if it's just actors, because they do talk about it being actors. Like the whole article is about Emilio Estevez, but it talks about him hanging out with Rob Lowe and the nights that they had together when they all hung out, and kind of how douchey they might have been a little bit at that time, because they were sort of the people. But here's another thing I forgot to mention, and I don't know if you don't get monetized right now, do you? Because
No,
I'm
I
going to
make
say
no
a
money
curse
off
word.
it.
I'm going to say
Oh, I
a
don't care.
big
Go
curse word. The Pussy Posse.
ahead.
That's another thing. That is a group of people, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Kevin Connolly, Jeremy Sisto, all these actors who used to hang out together all the time. I think Ethan Suplee is added in that group. And there was these guys who would just go around and they would start trouble. And there's a great movie. It's very much the St. Elmo's Fire of that thing. It's called Don's Plum, and we reviewed it for Indie Film Cafe, and it shows them in their light. It shows exactly what those guys are kind of like, how douchey they were back
Is
then.
it a documentary?
No, it was originally supposed to be a short film, right? That they were gonna do, and it was about them hanging out, but they shot so much footage. The director, and I'm gonna get it
I
messed
want to
up.
watch this now, because it's actually
Uh,
them in the movie.
yeah, and it was so, and this is all like everybody from the Pussy Posse. I'm not kidding. Scott Bloom, Kevin Connolly, Tobey Maguire, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jenny Lewis, Meadow Sisto, Marisa Ribisi, Amber Benson, Jeremy Sisto, uh, who else? Marissa Ryan, Heather McComb, Ethan Suplee has a part in it. Nikki Cox. It's just got a huge cast. It's directed by R.D. Robb, who you may know from a little movie called The Christmas Story, where he plays Schwartz in A Christmas
Oh,
Story, and he directed this movie, and he was just making it as a thing, and for a long time nobody could see it because it was banned from America because and we talked about it in the indie film cafe stuff what we heard, but I tried to be careful because there are some information that might be misinformation, and you got to be careful what you say, so a lot of it's got to be allegedly said. But what happened is Tobey Maguire was making Ice Storm at the time, and there was a little movie called Titanic. I don't know if it really did that well.
eh,
um
yeah.
Maybe a little
Sold a
bit.
couple tickets.
Yeah, sold a couple tickets.
Titanic 2
Uh,
from the Asylum was better.
don't get me started on that one. Um, but yeah, so those two guys, they're lawyers and they're agents, and all of them attacked this production company because there was, first of all, there was no releases for a feature film, right? So that was the problem, is it wasn't originally supposed to be a feature film. It was supposed to be a short, and that's what they all signed up for, right? Because, if it's a feature film, they get paid more, right? Which they didn't get paid more. That's the first thing. And the second thing I think is that, or maybe they did, but I don't think so. I think they they were just making a movie, and it was like it felt, a lot of it felt like improv. A lot of it was them chatting and doing stuff that, like I said, it felt very St. Elmo's Fire, but like with that group of people. So they're all hanging out at a diner talking to each other
Are they
about,
playing themselves or are they
they
playing
were kind of playing
actors
I think
or playing characters? I want to see
exaggerated
this. And it's
versions
Jason.
of
What is
them.
it called?
Let me see if I can find it and I'll send it to you.
Dawn's
Don's
Plum?
Plum. I think it's on YouTube, if I'm correct. If not, it's not. If it's not on there, good. Nope, it's still on there. Wait, yeah, it's still on there. All right, I'm gonna send it to you,
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna
you'll have it
watch
for.
that.
Yeah, and it is. It's black and white. It's this movie, where, I mean, the people are just the most obnoxious characters you'll ever meet. And that was the big thing, is like Leonardo DiCaprio at that time was becoming a star, like a big star. Like this was his, big thing. And it has him yelling at people and treating people like shit, and not the way they wanted him to be seen by people to go see Titanic. So they put a like a kibosh on it and said it cannot be sold in America. But the guys who
Wow.
made it, the guys who wrote it and produced it or made it and everything, did everything they could. They had a whole website called Free Don's Plum, and I almost interviewed the guy, but I think I did interview him, and then he told me to take it down, like before it got up. He said I can't have it be released because it could get him into, like, talking about the movie in itself could get him in trouble,
Is it
and
is it in its fullness? Like, is it the full movie because it's
I
YouTube, or
just
is it,
sent
do you
I
know if
just
it's
sent you
cut?
like the whole 1 hour and 48 minutes. So
Oh shit, that's
I
a long
think
film.
it's
Okay.
I think it's is that how long it was? Yeah, an hour and 48 minutes.
Okay. All right.
It's a real film. Like they really went out and made this movie, and I I I mean, it didn't get a stink from the stinkometer. Like it wasn't very high on that. Like it wasn't the characters were douchey and very, whatever, but like I think a lot of that had to do with, like, that was a lot of them just being themselves and having a lot of fun, like just playing themselves and just joking around and shit, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
I'll
it
have to
was
check this
it was
out. So,
yeah, I saw it and I still watch it. I like it. Like I hate that it's not available on like Blu-ray or something, Like I'd own it, but I like that kind of stuff. Like I like Adam Goldberg's movie Scotch and Milk, which was basically swingers, and stuff. I
Well,
like that kind of stuff.
funny you say swingers, because I just thought, I mean, there are the, John Favreau,
And
Vince
Vince
Vaughn,
Vaughn group, yeah.
Peter Billingsley group that, or you could even say the swingers group, because they were all friends who hung out together. In fact, my friend Eric, the one who I mentioned, he used to hang out with them. I missed it by 1 year. I could have been hanging out with all those guys, including like Noah Wiley, and they all hung out together and played kickball together, and they played video games
I
together.
mean, do we have
They,
that now? Do we like I feel like
I just think the Judd Apatow camp. I think that's it. I think that
because
would be
you
the
know what's
closest
going
thing. And
on
now,
right
like you said, it's gone.
you know what's going on right now is we've got social media. We've got Instagram, we've got OnlyFans, we've got all of these things that are sort of taking away from actors themselves, right? Everybody is putting stuff on their reels on Instagram, and that's getting attraction and stuff. YouTube personalities and vlogs. We don't have that one guy that was talking on the Bratz documentary was absolutely right that like the problem is everything's so everywhere, right? Like there's too much to consume now that there's not just one group of people anymore. There's 8,000 groups of people, and they aren't really groups because then they go off and do other things with other people, and it just becomes just nothing, anymore. I feel like we need to get back to that. We need to get I don't know.
I don't think that we'll ever have anything like this again, especially after Me Too, especially after COVID, especially after
Well, I mean,
all this type of stuff. We'll never have what's in your picture. We'll never have that degree. Oh, and plus, how many people needs to be in a pack? Can it just be two people or three people? Does it have to be six people? Because you got what, one, two, three, four, five. You got 7 people there, 7, 8 people there. Does it need to be that many to become a pack, or can it
does
be
the Kevin
five
Smith
people, 3 people?
does this Kevin Smith troupe like, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, uh Brian O'Halloran,
Smith would
Jason
definitely
Mewes.
have his own tree.
Yeah,
So yeah, it would be Smith,
exactly.
and the Muse would be right below that, and then it would branch out into,
To all the different
Halloran, and
actors, yeah, all
yeah,
the actors who have continued to work with him, and everything on constant movies. Like Jason Segel was only in 4 movies that Judd Apatow directed or produced or whatever produced, and then Kevin Smith, Brian O'Halloran's been in a lot of them. J. Anderson's been at least 4, I believe, because the first 3 Clerks plus I think Zach and Mary Make a Porno, and then I think that Dogma 5, so because he shows up as a gun salesman in that or something, which was neat to see, you know. I was in the theater when that happened, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Randall selling guns." It was just so weird. It's such a, and it's great. I love that. Like, I love watching movies that have members of the Pratt Pack in it because I can look at that, and if I was not expecting all of them to be in it or something, or those a bunch of the actors in it, I could be, dude, those are the people from the Pratt Pack, or I love those guys together. So
but
I don't
I
know.
mean,
This is my kind of stuff.
because of the article and because of agents and managers, you guys can't be in movies anymore. So it's like, which was really
Stupid.
stupid for
They should
that
have
to happen.
embraced.
But
They should have embraced the thing. Because that's what a lot of these people just moved on because, and if anybody brought up the Brat Pack to them, they probably go, "Oh, whatever, like it's not a big deal." People like Andrew McCarthy, I feel like he just took that so hard, when
it
he shouldn't have.
really did hit him, because that would have been, if it was
1985.
um so he did, so that's pretty imping, yeah, 85. So he had only done 3 films: Class, one called The Binnaker Game, and Heaven Help Us, which has its own group of people in it, because that's Kevin Dillon, and it's got its own little set of people in it. And yeah, and then so after that, I don't know, man. He's got St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, Mannequin, Waiting for the Moon, Less Than Zero, which was huge.
Right. And that was
Kansas,
a Brat
Fresh
Pack movie.
Horses.
That was, whether or not you want to admit that, they
Oh,
had
it is.
Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Gertz and James Spader. I mean, it was a Brat Pack movie.
Oh, definitely. And even Fresh Horses is him and Molly
Molly
Ringwald.
Ringwald and is Ben Stiller in that group though? Like at all? Because he's been in a few things,
He
you
was in
know.
that list I was going through. He did pop up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Weekend at Bernie's was him and Jonathan Silverman, and Jonathan Silverman sort of, I guess, is a member of the Brat Pack, I think. Like
I think he would be very,
very
very
low.
low. But yeah, I think that you could say it. Um, Dr.
Oh
M.
God, I did you ever watch that show he did, The Single Guy? I used to love that show when I was a kid. Like when it
Oh,
came
I
on,
know. I think I
I
know of it.
yeah, I used to watch it all the time, and I get really upset because I'm like, these shows should have been more popular than they were, but it just they didn't have the audience that they deserved, I feel like. But I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. As an adult now, I'm gonna rewatch it at some point to see if I can find it and rewatch it. And what I tried rewatching, I bought the first season of Picket Fences. The pilot was rough, man. It was not what I was expecting it to be. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
I know
man,
of it, but I never
yeah,
watched it. So I'm checking these
man.
titles and I'm seeing other people that could be included. Year of the Gun. Sharon Stone wouldn't be one, but she's in Year of the Gun. Only You has Kelly Preston, who was in a whole bunch of those like teen comedies. Helen Hunt's in that. Weekend at Bernie's 2, Joy Luck
Well,
Club. Getting
Jonathan Silverman was in Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which also had like Helen Hunt, Sarah Jessica Parker, Shannon Doherty. I don't know if they would be included as any of these people because they did their thing. I know Shannon could be included in the Kevin Smith thing by like, you know, one or two video movies or whatever.
yeah, by
You
kind of by
know,
proxy. Oh, then here's Kirsty Swanson. She was in another one called Getting In.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
um Dead Funny, Mrs. Parker, Night of the Running. This guy is you know, you got the Mulholland Falls, so we got to work with David Lynch. So I don't know, man. Like he was in Stag. He even did an Ed
he
Wood
was.
movie. We brought up Ed movie called I Woke Up Early the Day I Died.
Oh yeah, that was awful. I tried
I've never
watching
seen
that.
it.
I tried watching it because it kind of available on like YouTube or one of those things, you know. And I'm an Ed Wood fan, so I wanted to see it, and I just was like it felt Ed Wood light, you know. Like I feel like if Ed Wood had directed that movie today, you know, or whatever, he would have made that movie so much better based on his script. But I think that the director, I was not a fan. I had to turn it off. I was kind of bored, you know. Uh,
Yeah, I wanted to watch it for a long time, and then I just kind of went,
I think they
I don't.
try to make it a good movie, and that's the problem. Is if you're gonna make an Ed Wood film, if you're gonna John Johnson did Play a Nine, which I'm in for briefly as a zombie, but like he tried to make it sort of good, but he also made it campy, and silly and goofy, like his own style of it, and I think he did a good job, but the problem is a lot of people talk about that movie as like it was, you can't make something bad. Like people say, "Oh, let's take a remake of a bad movie and make it better," right? Even Ebert said that once, and I was like, "It." Problem with it is, it wasn't a good movie to start with, right? Like that's the point. That's what the fun part is, right? When you watch those really bad movies, like Play a Nine from Outer Space, they tried, but it was a bad movie. It just came out bad. They can't remake. You can't remake and make it better.
Well, I mean, the remake of Plan 9 from Outer Space would be Star Wars. I mean, that's how you would have to do it. You can't. I love Plan 9 from Outer Space. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. I fucking love it. And I own it on Blu ray. And you can't take a bad movie and then just remake it as a bad movie.
Right.
That makes no sense. You want to take Plan 9, give it the budget of Star Wars or Star
Right.
Trek, and make a legitimate high budget film. So that's why I own Plan 9, that remake, but I never finished it because I just couldn't. I
Probably
couldn't
never
get
got to
into
my
it because
part,
of that.
damn it.
Probably not. So, but other
You
stuff
need
that
to
he
rock
did.
Congress.
Well, if you ever want to review it with me, Spiderwick Chronicles. I mean, he's done a ton of films.
Yeah.
And then you look at TV, 1986, all the way up to The Blacklist, 2023. Dude, what is your problem? You're on like Amazing Stories, Tales from the Crypt, Law
He
and
did Amazing
Order.
Stories with Timothy Hutton. He talked about that in the documentary. Is that that's how
Oh yeah,
they
Grandpa's
work
Ghost.
together? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and
Twilight
and,
Zone.
and
One
Timothy
of the.
Hutton was a part of that, but really was he? I mean, because he wasn't what they were talking about. I mean, he talked about
But
in
he's
the
in
doc,
Taps, and
and
Taps
he's
is the
in.
one that's Tom
I thought
Cruise, Sean Penn. Ordinary
ordinary
People's where he
people,
won the Academy Award. So he was
right?
the first one, like of that age, of that to win that award. So he said it that young people could win Academy Awards. But he is also in Taps. It's one of Tom Cruise's best performances. I mean, he gets gunned down with a machine gun, which is fucking
Well,
awesome.
he,
And but it's
here's well, I was just gonna say what the best part about what the documentary talked about, and everything was the fact that I never thought about it. But back then, teenagers weren't taken seriously as actors, or whatever. Like the teenage genre hadn't really existed until like the 80s. 80s really Fast Times at Ridgemont High and you know,
yeah.
things like that. Sean Penn and Fast Times at Ridgemont High and
For me,
Judge
that's
Lionel.
the definitive 80s movie. If people want to know
Exactly.
how we lived in the 80s, that was it. We were so fucking tired of hearing the Go-Go's, we got the beat, we booed it. I remember that
Yeah.
being in a sold out movie theater and We Got the Beat came on and everybody booed it. It was
Right.
like Green Day's Boulevard of Broken Dreams, where it's just like, fuck, enough already. We've heard this
Right.
song played so many times.
I know, but but at that time period too, like the teenagers weren't being taken seriously, and movies like that, and even I think Taps had teenagers in it because it was set in a military academy, right?
Military
Or
Academy.
something.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
like a high school
a high
military.
school.
It's that
I went
age.
to one.
Yeah.
I went to one. I don't talk about it as much, but I went to summer school at Fork Union Military Academy,
Oh
FUMA,
wow.
as it was called. And my brother had gone to it and graduated from it and everything, I believe, or whatever. And my parents were like, "You're doing shitty in school. We need you to shape up. Your summer is not gonna be fun." Basically shit me off. And it was one of the I mean, it was summer school, so it wasn't as strict, as it was. But I love having that experience because I never went to camp. I never did 4-H camp. I never did like the Boy Scouts. I never did all those things that are sort of like rite to passages for guys. They are movies and everything. You see, he was a Boy Scout or he went to camp or whatever. I never did that. So going to the Fork Union, at least I had that and stuff. So movies like Taps actually did sort of was a movie I really liked a lot, and
it's
stuff.
it's a good film, and Cruz just plays a psychopath and just gets gunned
Yep.
down. When you say it's beautiful, man, when he's using his machine gun, and then just and he just gets
I
like
gotta
50
rewatch that,
bullets
but that
into
is
him.
that is a movie I remember when I watched it. I was like, oh man, this is I dig
Well,
this.
and it's George C. Scott. I mean, it's
Mhm.
got this great older cast in
Right.
it too. One of
And
the
it also a
things,
Red Dawn, and stuff.
well,
Teenage
okay, all of them would be
Rat
considered
Pack.
part of the rat or the Brat Pack, yeah.
Yeah.
So and that even has a great older cast with like Powers Booth and stuff. But yeah, all of that stuff would be considered. And let's see if it's
Patrick
on here.
Swayze goes back to Patrick Swayze is part of the Brat Pack then. because
He
he
would
was in a
be,
bunch of these things.
I think he would be one of the sub leaders when you
Right.
throw him in with also
Dirty Dancing
Dirty
and
Dancing, Roadhouse, all these types of
Roadhouse.
movies. I think that he is definitely, and then of course, like Charlie Sheen is in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the
He's also in
druggie.
Lucas. He's in a Lucas, and yeah, he's in Ferris Bueller's Day Off as the guy, the kid that what's her name from Dirty Dancing, the girl from Dirty Dancing.
Yeah,
Nobody puts baby in the corner. She has that scene with him
where they
and stuff,
flirt.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
and she's
flirt,
like all
and
giggly when they leave. Yeah,
yeah. So like, Paula hates that movie. I don't know why.
I love
Uh,
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is. I think
See,
it's
that's
it's
so
a
funny because
great
you also
movie.
love The Graduate and he hates that. So I don't know what his problem is. I think I honestly think he hates coming of age movies, or whatever like
Ferris
that,
Bueller is just a fun. I mean, I think Ferris and The Graduate are totally opposite of each other, but Ferris is just a fun movie of this guy that can go out and basically get away with whatever he wants, and none of it is harmful.
But
He's
does
just,
uh, uh, does
it's a
Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford and Paul Newman and a lot of those guys who all work together a lot, do they count as their own pack of people? You know?
no. I think a genre brings them together. So you have Easy Rider, where you have all those actors that are together. You have all the people, and that includes the directors too. The Godfather. You have, Scorsese with like Goodfellas, with all those guys. So I think you have more of a particular genre that you expect these people to be in, and you want to go see them in it.
Right, because like, even today people get really excited when, Al Pacino and
Like De Niro are
and De
together.
Niro work together like they did in Heat. They later on did The Irishman, right? Like
Yeah.
and stuff. So
Yeah,
like
with
and now with
Pesci. Yeah.
Scorsese, so and Pesci.
Well,
So like
but there is one pack that I think more filmmakers know than anybody else. It's the famous photo from the 70s of Spielberg, Lucas, De Palma, Coppola. It's all those directors sitting in a booth,
because at
and
that
they all
time
worked on each other's movies.
that was it. At that time in the 80s and 70s and 80s, they like late 70s and 80s, that was I remember reading about or listening to about this. The studios at that time didn't it wasn't about the actors necessarily. The actors, they got picked and they did whatever, but it was about the directors and how they made movies. George Lucas, nobody wanted to take a chance on George Lucas at first. Like he got turned down from Star Wars for like a ton of companies. Then later Fox, took that chance with him. And even then they were fighting him like tooth and nail. Like if you watch that, there's that huge documentary that's on I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a huge documentary on the Star Wars special edition, stuff or whatever disc, and it talks all about how uh difficult it was for George Lucas to make it, and he finally made it exactly, or at least as exactly as he wanted it to be. I don't know if that was exactly what he planned, but I think he had to make some sacrifices for
I
things.
would say it was two people, and one of them would be his wife who edited the movie, and the other one, Star Wars producer. I'm blanking on his name. He was the head of 20th Century Fox. Um, and he's the one, Alan Ladd. He's the
Alan
one
Ladd.
who basically said, "We're doing this movie." So between Lucas's wife and people out there sit there and go, "Oh, women can't do, Hollywood doesn't let women do anything." Blah 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 blah. Blah. She won a friggin' Academy Award, and
Mm,
she saved. Everybody says that she saved the movie, because look at the amount of footage that's missing from that film. That
hmm
movie would have been like 4 hours long,
Yeah.
and a lot of it isn't good. And she's between her and Alan Ladd, they cut out all that stuff. So it's you're not going to get. I think that we could probably keep thinking of examples of these packs or groups that kind of hung out together, knowing that in the same building, actresses and actors were going through the Star Wars auditions through a one door right into Carrie. And there was no competition. It was just, hey, we're making movies at the same time. Why don't we hold auditions at the same time?
Right.
Because they were friends. And so it was, let's help each other. Coppola became the producer and with Lucas and said, well, let's produce some movies and stuff. And
I
it's
wish more people would do that on like
I think you got that small group. I think like Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, and
Eli Roth.
Eli Roth. I think they help each other out, but it's never going to be like it was. And I would probably even say with the Brat Pack that once they got to that level of Brat Packness, I don't even think they really helped each other out from that.
Yeah.
I think that this, St. Elmo's Fire would probably be, because like I didn't even know who Demi Moore was. I just thought, my God, this woman is gorgeous. And then later we find out that she's in like Parasite. And then even later we find out that she was in Wee magazine. And then later we find out that she's the woman on the poster for I Spit on Your Grave.
I love that she said the line in the thing where she was in rehab and she got the script. And she's like, I'm sorry, I gotta leave rehab to go do the script. And they said, what's more important, the script or your career or your sobriety? And she said, my career.
Yeah.
And she took that, and because she did St. Elmo's Fire, which had really serious stuff with her, like it was what she was going through at that time. It was sort of like her rehab in a way, and she was able to go from that and do more bigger stuff from it. So I absolutely loved her choice, even though it is one of those things of like your sobriety. Me personally, I am in recovery from alcohol, so my sobriety does come first, right? So, but like, what does that necessarily mean? You know what I mean? Like, does that mean like that I would go to an event for like an AA type thing or something rather than go to a horror film convention? No, it just means making sure that if I go to that horror convention, I don't drink, you know? Like that's really where the sobriety comes first, is knowing that no matter what, I need to stay sober, Like I can't let that affect me. And she went on and did that, and I don't know, like I haven't heard anything bad about her being drunk or doing or on drugs you know what I mean? Like she seems to have her shit together,
Yeah, and I would probably say almost all these people have had their own issues. I mean, Judd Nelson did end up being an alcoholic, which I think stopped him from being in a lot of movies. Rob Lowe had the sex tape that came, at the Republican convention. And that only seemed in a way to help the movie Bad Influence, because people were comparing it, because he does use a video camera in the film. Emilio wanted to be a director and nobody took him seriously at all.
And then he made Men at Work, and then they're like, oh, still not taking him very seriously.
Yeah, over the time. Yeah, kind of like, Mario Van Peebles or some of these other people that I like whose dads were famous.
Men at Work and Rated X. Oh, I know you've seen that movie.
I saw it at Sundance, and
oh man,
both Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez were there, doing a Q&A.
Did you meet them?
I didn't. No, I was at the Q&A because I paid for the movie. I got my tickets in advance, but my friend Scott did live right next door to the brother that was killed, and they heard it. So that because it was all in San Francisco and Marin County, but each of them, and then of course Andrew McCarthy seemed to have like a mental breakdown over the whole thing. So they all seem to have their own issues in a way, and some of them just kind of overcame them, and
some didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Demi Moore has been able to play a variety of different characters and all that, while Rob Lowe, I think, has found his niche in the very fast talking, very positive type of guy that he has played, on like Parks and Recreation. I think that's who he is now.
Um, was it Judd Nelson was in a movie called Bigfoot Wars that my friend Jackie was in, and so was C. Thomas Howell. Is C. Thomas Howell in the Brat Pack?
Yes, he would be
Okay.
a sub. Okay, so there's on Wikipedia, it says here, okay, beyond the two primary films, I don't know what the other one is. We know St. Elmo's Fire is one, but I'm not sure what the other one is. It says there is no generally accepted list of Brat Pack movies, while Blum's article credits Taps as the first Brat Pack movie. The list of movies below represents the more traditional filmography, with each movie including at least two core members in the starring roles. So they're showing on here Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy. So the very first one on here is The Outsiders.
Hmm.
And that's Matt Dillon, Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, C. Thomas Howell, and Ralph Macchio.
So it's saying The Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire. That's the two that they were talking about.
Okay, and that is on here. Class 1983. That's Rob Lowe and Andrew McCarthy. That's John Cusack. Then 16 Candles, 84, which is, that's Anthony Michael Hall, that's, Molly Ringwald, but it also has John Cusack and Jamie Gertz in it.
Right.
Oxford Blues would be two of them, Ali Sheedy, Rob Lowe. Breakfast Club, of course, we know has five of them in it. St. Elmo's Fire has a ton of them in it. Mayor Whittingham is listed off to the side. Pretty in Pink also has John Cryer, James Spader.
John Cryer says he's not part of the Brat Pack. He doesn't want, like, he doesn't consider himself part of it.
I do. I consider him to be, because he
I
was
mean,
also like No Small Affair, and he was in these movies with these people. So this is a short list too. It's not very long. Then Blue City, which was Ali Sheedy and Judd Nelson. That was 86. About Last Night. Oh my God, that is Demi Moore at her. Oh, her and Rob Lowe. So we get, for the ladies and for the men, we get full frontal nudity from both Rob Lowe and Demi Moore in that movie. Wisdom is Charlie Sheen, is uncredited. Fresh Horses, Andrew McCarthy and Molly Ringwald. Betsy's Wedding is Molly Ringwald and who? Oh, Ali Sheedy. But then they do list other 1980s films with similar coming of age themes that starred only one core Brat Pack actor with one or more close contributor. Would include, and I'll just quickly name them: Tex, War Games, Bad Boys, Repo Man, No Small Affair, Heaven Help Us, Weird Science. And they do list the actors here, but it's going to take too long to go through them all. One Crazy Summer, Young Blood, The Pickup Artist, Less Than Zero, Mannequin, Johnny Be Good, Young Guns, Kansas, We're No Angels, Young Guns 2, Bad Influence.
mm-hmm.
And then some films have been dubbed Brat Pack movies, despite having no stars from the core membership, including Red Dawn, which is C. Thomas Howell, Jennifer Grey, Charlie Sheen. They do list Harry Dean Stanton, because he's been in a few of these, like Pretty in Pink. Patrick Swayze, Leah Thompson, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Matthew Broderick, with Jennifer Grey and Charlie Sheen, Lost Boys. So I think you could just keep breaking it down more and more and more.
I guess. I mean, I I kind of agree that, like, I just see the people from St. Elmo's Fire and the Breakfast Club. That's all I see. Those are the two, like, core Brat Pack members. Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, that group, and Judd Nelson. And I really do. I'm agreeing with you. Like, I hope they do a part two because I did really, 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 really like this one. But I don't know what else can be said or done or whatever. Like I feel like he did it in this
I don't know
documentary.
because I think ending it with him saying, picking up the phone and going, Judd, that's there's something with that.
I think they set it up where there could be a sequel if he wants to do one. But how many documentaries get sequels though? You know, like there's no
I mean,
Hoop Dreams Part Two.
there have been, there have been. I think that this is, I think, to kind of bookend it, to kind of put it all to rest. I think that I think people would
I
watch
think this
it
should have been
because
a series, man. Like I feel like there's so much more that should have been explored other than like an hour and a half movie. You know? Like I feel like there should have been like 8 hours, and I
so
think
each
that would have really
episode
helped them.
interviews like a different person, maybe make it like
No, because
30
they didn't
30
really
minutes.
make, I mean, unless they had a lot more footage that they just did not put into the thing.
Oh no, for
Their
like
interviews were
let's say
pretty
they did a
small.
sequel. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, he probably wanted to keep it at a certain length. I
I
mean,
really
that's
do think
yeah.
maybe a series would be great, docu series where yeah, he talks to different, like he did that with Emilio. He had a really good talk with Emilio. I loved those two together talking because Emilio just he gets the psychoanalysis thing of it, you know? And it hit like they attacked him, right? Like that article went after him, or you know what I mean? Like even if
Well,
David doesn't admit that Dave didn't admit that he did it, he was that was a snipe attack,
but yeah,
like
because he's a nepo baby. So
yeah.
it's because if you, I thought it interesting that nobody brought up Charlie Sheen.
Nobody brought up Charlie Sheen, nobody brought up Martin Sheen, or I love Joe Estevez, so like
Well,
I love that family.
I don't think that, yeah, like the dad and all that. I think for Charlie Sheen as being, adjacent to the Brat Pack, I think because of his issues with drugs, alcohol, giving women HIV. I mean, I mean, that's maybe one of the reasons why he's not brought up. But they could still interview Christian Slater. I mean, he's still working a lot. They could interview a lot of people from that time.
From that time, not necessarily people that are part of the Brat Pack, but people who remember those people then, because like what also was a great thing about that article was the fact that they talked about how much they hung out together. And even in this documentary, Rob Lowe and Andrew McCarthy mentioned the fact that they went out to a bar and they saw Liza Minnelli, and then they got invited to Sammy Davis Jr.'s house, and they
that is
got
so
to meet the
awesome.
part of the Rat Pack and meets the Brat Pack.
See,
And to
and
me, that was
Liza
awesome.
Minnelli is adjacent to the Rat Pack. She would be there with like Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh and stuff. She'd be
Yeah,
on that branch.
but like it's just fun to see that they would all hang out and everything. Like you said, they would play cards in the Rat Pack. They go out downstairs and play cards. In the Brat Pack, they would go out to bars and whatever and just harass people, whatever they wanted. Because they were just like I was talking about the Pussy Posse. Those guys all hung out together. They'd go to each other's houses. They would play video games. They would do they would, have parties. They would do that stuff, right? When I was in LA, I got invited to Jared Cohn's birthday party. Jared Cohn did a lot of stuff for the asylum. Fortunately, I didn't go, and my friend Mackenzie yelled at me later about it. Said you should have gone. It was the most epic like networking event ever, right? Because it was nothing but a bunch of producers and cast members, or actors all hanging out together. And that is what I feel like there are those things. People are still hanging out together, getting to know each other, networking, trying to be with each other's movies. It's just there's so much that, like independently we have sort of like you know, if you want to go independently, we have the Mahal Empire, and they have their people that they work with constantly. You know, we have all these different group. Brad Twigg has his own group of people that he works constantly with, you know, and you'll see them in all the different
Joe
movies.
Lujan, who I
Joe
work with, has
Lujan,
his
who
yeah has
has
his
his
own.
own people like Taylor, who I love and adore.
Yeah,
And
Taylor, Chris, myself.
Chris, yeah,
It's yeah, it's
yeah.
we did forget one pack,
What
the frat pack.
I'm gonna. Are you
They
talking about like? Are you
we
talking about? Are you wait? Are you talking about Animal House group?
No, so this group was Ben Stiller,
Ben
Owen
Stiller?
Wilson, Luke Wilson, um, Will Ferrell, Steve
Oh, the
Carell.
frat pack from like old school, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, so there is another pack there,
I
and
guess. I mean, but a lot of those guys did go off and work. Like Will Ferrell worked with, Judd Apatow, you know, and so he became a little bit part of that group. You know, he was an undeclared, and Ben Stiller uh, was in Judd Apatow stuff. I think he was either in Undeclared or Freaks and Geeks or something, you know, like because he worked with Judd Apatow on Cable Guy, you know, which Ben Stiller directed Cable Guy, which not many people remember that, but he directed Cable Guy, which I actually like. I don't know. It's fun for me. It's stupid. It's not, I don't take it seriously or anything. Matthew Broderick's in that too. So part of the, Brat Pack to bring that back. But, I mean, there's a lot of packs, a lot of groups, and I still think it's happening. It's just not as like noticeable. And maybe you're right. Like in Hollywood, a lot of the Me Too situations, and you can't shoot a movie like I'll say Don's Plum because Don's Plum was very vulgar and very, whatever. But you can't shoot a movie like um I don't even know, like teen movies aren't very much viewed today well because a lot of times teen movies they try to show you what it was like to be a teen, and what it was like to be a teen is sex and drinking and other things like that, which nowadays people there's a whole group of people who look for movies that have sexual assault in some ways or another, and that becomes a problem, you know. People will go, oh, you can't watch that, that's got sexual assault in it now, it's got to be canceled, you know.
oh,
And I'm like,
I just watched this thing on Disney that talked about that when they did their new standards, two characters got dropped. Tinkerbell was one
why?
because of her body, her image, the body that girls could not look like Tinkerbell.
Well, why would
So they
Tinkerbell's a fairy, not a real person?
and the octopus witch from Little Mermaid because it said that she was a bad representation for lesbians.
Wait, the one Melissa McCarthy played?
Yeah, but I'm talking about more of the cartoon. So they looked at certain things and they found that the two most characters that they thought would offend people the most were those two.
Wait,
So
Disney did
yeah,
themselves? Like now
yeah, Bob
they won't
Iger and
show
all them.
Ursula anymore?
No, they just show it in a different way. Like Tinkerbell was in that Peter Pan and Wendy movie, but is now like Hispanic or something. Is now
well,
a
I know
different looking Tinkerbell, and
I'll
so
have to
was
go
Melissa
check out what
McCarthy.
the
I'll
Melissa
send you the
McCarthy one.
video. I just watched it today. It was
I'd have
brand
to.
new.
I never watched the Little Mermaid
Oh,
remake because
I won't.
I
I
heard it
still
was terrible.
yeah.
But and it's Disney's fault, but it is just something I'm just not into uh their reimaginings as whatever. I'm into their, so anyway.
Well,
I'm
so this is kind of interesting. So it says here Frank Sinatra in 1957. Okay, so Frank Sinatra became the Rat Pack leader from 1957 on the wake of Humphrey Bogart's death. So basically, it was um, Okay, so the original version of the so the the Rat Pack became, and some of these names I don't understand. Okay, Frank Sinatra, Pack Master, Judy Garland, First Vice President, Sid Luft, Cage Master, Bogart, Rat in Charge of Public Relations, Swifty Lazar, Recording Secretary and Treasurer. I mean, it just David Niven, Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy, Cary Grant, Rex Harrison. I mean, it's all, and they had like official titles.
My friend Vittorio made a joke to me the other day when we watched the movie. He said, "What a group of chefs that get together, would they be the Brat Pack? Brat, like bratwurst, the Brat Pack.
Yeah, I guess you could
You
make
could
up a
call
name
them
for
that.
them. Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, chefs the Brat Pack. I don't know. Would they have to be German? You know, in order to, you know."
I guess they just put on accents. Well, so like the original Rat Pack would be, Sinatra, D. Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., but there's also Peter Lawford and Joey Bishop. And if you remember, it was Joey Bishop's son who then became a director, and he started directing a bunch of independent movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, and they were not very good. And I asked a friend of mine, I'm like, God, why would people want to be in this? They're not very good. And he's like, the name. They want to be associated with a bishop. They want to be associated with a Rat Pack. So to kind of go back to your question from earlier, yeah, I mean, I would love to work with Judd Nelson. He's been on my list for decades. I mean, he was my favorite. I'd love to work with him. So I guess then when you're discussing his movies, my name would be brought up.
I guess. I mean, if you made a movie that, because like, unfortunately, he's been in a lot of indie films that have bombed, you know, or just don't get, don't get, like Bigfoot Wars was not very good, at
I would
all.
imagine not, but imagine you take one of these people that's in this group that isn't doing great, and you basically give them that role that turns
Right.
their entire career around. And now you're going from that D to Z actor to an A-list actor. You're now the guy that changed that person's life completely.
Right.
Which is something that
What
I
Tarantino
would
did.
like to do. Yeah, it was something like John Travolta, who was completely on the skids.
Yeah, at that
Nobody
one
went to go
point.
see a Tarantino movie. I mean, nobody went to go
Um,
see a Travolta film.
Jackie Brown brought back the what's that guy's name? Well, Pam Grier, who
Pam
at
Grier for
that
one,
time
yeah.
that was not but the other guy, the uh shoot. Um I'm blanking on his name. Um
I'm trying to
let's
think
see.
who else would be.
Robert Forster. At that
Oh
time,
yeah,
Robert Forster had
yeah.
not sort of fallen on the skids. I think even Sid Haig was in Jackie Brown, if I'm correct. So, I mean, to go back to another group of people, like Rob Zombie kind of kept working with a bunch of different people
He's
who
got his
sort
pack.
of, he's got his
Yeah,
pack.
and
And
he doesn't go outside of that pack.
right.
Like they wanted him to be
Well,
that lead zombie guy in that zombie movie, the dead don't die, the whatever the zombie film that was for Full Moon. I think it's Dave Parker directed it, and they wanted him to be the lead, but he said no, because if you look at his films, he stays within his camp. You
so
know,
who he wanted who to be in that?
Rob Zombie.
Oh, wait, he wanted Rob Zombie to act?
Yeah, he wanted him to be the lead zombie that's like sitting in the chair. That's kind of
So
the
he wanted Rob
the
Zombie to play a zombie.
yeah.
Okay.
There
If
you
you're
go.
gonna ask anybody to be a zombie, you might as well ask
Well, if you
Rob.
look at the character or the actor who plays it, yeah, it looks exactly like Rob Zombie. So they still went with the same
Look.
look, but
Which now
it's
Billy Ray Cyrus looks like Rob Zombie.
oh god, I would have no idea.
Yeah, it's bad.
I mean, you could there's, I mean, you could even say that with somebody like Tom Cruise, because now Tom Cruise works with all the same people, all the same directors, all the same producers, the same studios. They're all the same guys, or girls. And so, I mean, I guess that, like I mentioned, I guess that we could kind of keep naming these things, but none of them are as big as the Brat Pack, who I
Right.
would say were the ones in your picture were the Beatles of 80s actors. And
Hmm.
at some point, it does have to come to an end. And, unfortunately, it did.
Yep. Um, yeah, but yeah, it'd have to come to an end. And I think a lot of it, even though we heard that they were told not to work together, a lot of them still did work together, you know? Like a lot of it was because I know I hear this all the time that Hollywood, they would have, I don't know how it is now because everything's Zoom, but they'd have like live auditions and like people like Seth Green and maybe like because the Entourage thing shows it, but like maybe like Seth Green or David Faustino and all of them who have sort of they had hits and they had big things at the time, they would audition against each other, you know? And like Seth Green might go up against Jack Black for a role, right? And then they would realize which person that they're going for. So it'd be like Seth Green looks more like the character we want. But everybody would audition against each other and they all get to know each other, because they sit around in the audition room and chat and then maybe they'd hang out, after and they'd be friends, and whoever got the part. But then they would move on. Like we were watching Night of the Comet. We were doing feature on only, and that had Kelly Maroney and Catherine Mary Stewart and just a great movie. I don't know if you've
Love
seen
that.
it or
Oh,
not.
yeah, I've seen it many
Yeah.
times. I saw it at the
Um,
theater when it originally came out. Yeah.
yeah, and did you know that Heather Langenkamp auditioned for the role that Kelly Maroney got? And she did not get the part. But that same year, a little movie called The Nightmare on Elm Street came out. Or she got that movie, and I think she made the right. I think she's okay not getting that
Yeah.
part. It's just always funny when I hear somebody saying, "I'm so sad I didn't get the part." I'm like, well, something better could come along. You know, like keep your eye open because, like that's the thing. She didn't get that part, but she got Nightmare on Elm Street, and then later she was in Just the Ten of Us, which,
Well, and,
whatever.
and I think for, like the core Brat Pack, I think at some point movies were also tailored for them.
Right.
Like I have a feeling that From the Hip was tailored
Judd
for Judd
Nelson.
Nelson,
Yeah.
and that's a Bob Clark film too. That's one of the saddest things was his death with his son,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
he
But
directed that movie, I think, right? And then
yeah, and
it
then
was the writer
Timothy.
of it was the writer of like it was one of those law writers, like law, not Law and Order. I don't think it was Dick Wolf. Ha! Dick Wolf, by the way. That's what my shirt says. Executive producer Dick Wolf.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, which I
Don't look
guess
at it in a mirror because then it says Wolf Dick.
yeah. Well, or it says
Well,
now you sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um
yeah, but then you also have like great, now I'm completely Bob Clark, completely
oh
blanking on his name. Also directed Turk 182, which had Timothy Hutton.
it was David E. Kelly. Oh, trying to think of the name of the guy, but I knew it was somebody who did like L.A. Law and Ally McBeal and Lincoln Lawyer, and all those amazing movies or shows. I mean, it's funny because I grew up in a time period where shows were starting to really become a big thing, right? Like shows sort of when you were first watching shows, they were sort of like they were on their own thing. They weren't like movies or anything. They didn't have movie stars. They had television stars, and you didn't want to be a
Oh yeah.
television star because
No, no,
that
no.
meant your career as a movie star. And I think people still feel that way, which I feel like is ridiculous, because like movies and television, I feel are
Maybe
synonymous.
to, yeah, I maybe to a degree, but I don't think if if Kevin Costner wanted to do a show on Netflix about the Old West, I don't think anybody would look down on him for that.
Well, isn't that what he's
Yeah.
doing?
Well, no, he has that new Western coming out that's in two parts. It's theaters only.
It's gonna be more than that. He's like, that's what he went to Cannes Film Festival and raised money, and he got all the money that he needed, and he's got all the different sequels, so he's just gonna just release he's just gonna make a bunch of them and just put them all out and
Are they
stuff.
all?
And
Well, it's Horizon parts 1 and 2. There are more Horizon parts.
yeah, so right now it's Oscar. Hold on. It's so Horizon, an American Saga, chapter 1 through 4
Oh
right now.
wow.
Yeah. I think there might be more, but that's all. Whoa, what are they're remaking Waterworld. What? Ooh. Ooh. I know you like it, but ooh.
Oh no, I don't like it.
Oh,
Waterworld.
somebody I know
I
likes
like the
it.
Postman because it's so awful, but it's
Yeah,
Waterworld is part of Kevin Costner's I'm Jesus Christ era, where he
right,
did Dances with Wolves, Waterworld, The Postman. He did these films where basically his character is Jesus Christ, and every woman wants to have sex with him so they could have
right.
his baby. And that was during his what I call his Vin Diesel days, where Vin Diesel was so out of control with ego, that it was so it's yeah.
I don't know. I'm just it, you know, and I love watching these old episodes of like Cisco and Ebert now because I like see everything, like I see I see all these old movies, some that I haven't even seen, them review or whatever. Some they say are bad, like I mean they did like the worst of, and they'll talk about like Judge Dredd, and the same year as like certain movies, and I'm like, oh my God, that came out that same year? That's crazy. And I feel like it's so different now because like nowadays we look at it and we go, Barbie and Oppenheimer. Who would have thought that those two would go together? Like and
As
everything. But
somebody
like
who I hope got a raise,
I know
that's just
whoever
pure
made
freaking
that,
genius.
whoever did that, like yes, I hope you got money off of that and marketed that. Because like now they're marketing Hot Tui, which in like a year nobody will remember. But like, I hope. But apparently that chick is getting money. I don't know if you know about that because that's all over the fucking Facebook
What
and
is
shit.
it? Maybe I don't.
It's the chick who went like, she was on she got caught on a video and she said the guy said, the guy asked her, how do you please a guy or something? And she was like, you give him a little and spit on that thing. And she was joking. And it got now if you look on Facebook,
I have no
that is
idea.
seriously, I don't know if you've been looking at your Facebook because like that is literally all that's on my page now. And it annoys the shit out of me because I'm like, it's annoying. It was like something they were trying to do to get rid of all the other shit, I think. I think somebody made that and it went viral so that they would stop talking about Star
Oh,
Wars.
I did see a couple things. I had no idea what they were talking about. So,
Yeah, same.
unless it's attacking the acolyte or videos about Funko Pops, I don't care. I don't watch anything else on YouTube these
Well, it's
days.
not YouTube. It was like
So,
on like it's memes and other things on Facebook
no, I
and stuff
have
now
no
and
idea.
whatever. But anyway, the point was that girl is making lots and lots of money off of that shit now because all she's doing is signing shit, with her real name, which nobody knows. I don't think anybody even knows what her real name is. They just call her the Hawk Tui girl. And somebody made a song out of it, just using her
Well,
clip and
so
everything.
are you saying this is today's Brat Pack? type of thing?
I mean, this is just
what
this.
is where are you going with the Haktui girl
Well,
or
I'm just
whatever
saying
she is?
that's what it is these days. That's all it is whatever's big at that moment in time, trending on TikTok or whatever. That's what's going on. That's what people are paying attention to. But it's gone in like it's usually gone in a week. This has been happening for a couple weeks now. It's kind of annoying. But it's usually gone in a week, and then somebody else is talking about something else, that's going on. And sometimes it's political, sometimes it's movies, television, whatever is viral, at that particular moment. And we don't really have like a thing these days. Nobody will come up with the another Brat Pack thing, and
Well,
call
they
people that because we don't really have
no.
that,
No, we
you
don't
know?
have it at all, and movies are
No.
bombing beyond belief. So you're not getting any of that, and franchises are being canceled. So
I I watched
Furiosa being the latest one.
I watched a trailer to a movie that was all YouTube stars, right? Logan Paul directed it,
Oh
and it
God.
was called it was called Airplane Mode. And I only had to watch it was a parody of Airplane.
Oh,
How do
I've
you
seen.
fucking make a
Yeah,
parody of a parody? But it was basically all of them together. It had the
I know
guy
of it.
that was
Yeah.
like that got famous on YouTube for saying, hide your kids, hide your wives, and that shit like that. And it sort of annoyed me because I'm like, this is it. This is where we're at right now, where people will the studios look at actors and they go, Logan Paul has, 50 million followers. Let's get him, put him in a movie, let him direct something, right? We have that I think you know about it, but there's that Project Greenlight style thing that Chris Moore did called the Chair, you
Yeah,
know? And the Chair was two filmmakers directing basically supposed to be directing the same script.
it
That would
is
have
the
been
same
cool.
script.
But then
It
they
is.
changed
Yeah.
it and they made it their own. And they actually changed the dialogue and all this other shit, which I didn't like. I didn't like that shit. I'm like, if they had actually made the same movie, just like directing their own way, that would have been cool. But then it didn't like, one of them didn't even have the same title, and stuff like that. And
Well, no,
I
it's they changed it in the same way that a studio would change it.
right,
That was the thing. They had the script and they could do with it what they wanted.
right, exactly. And
I'm
so
blanking on who the guy
Shane
is.
something, Shane,
Oh, I fucking hate him. God, do
um,
I hate him? Shane Dawson. I
Dan Dawson,
cannot
yes.
stand him. I wish that a friggin' truck going 100 miles an hour would hit him.
I remember
God, do I
Zachary
hate that
Quinto got
guy.
so mad when that movie came out because he thought it was trash and it was not, what they were, that's not what they signed up for or whatever. It became like this teen comedy instead of like this nice, the other one, Holidaysburg or whatever, was more of what they were looking for. So he actually took his name off of it. And I was like, Zachary, like you should have known better. Kind of didn't like his attitude on that, I felt like they portrayed him badly on that. Now, whether or not that's how he is or how he was, whatever. I I don't care. I never watch I don't watch Star Trek, so I don't know. I don't see the new Star Trek and stuff, so I've never seen him as Spock, and whatnot. I don't watch any Zachary Quinto movies. I think it's Zachary Quinto, right? It's not,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because there's the other
No, he's good
Zachary
as Spock.
Levi, but they're different Zacharies, you
They
know.
are. Yes, they are. So yeah. So do
And they're
you?
not part of any packs. No.
No, no. Do you have any favorite like Brat Pack or Brat Pack jaded films that you really like or own? Do you own any of them?
I mean, I think I own the Breakfast Club and did do I own Pretty in Pink? I might own Pretty in Pink. Um, I don't know because I remember seeing it at the store, so I don't know if I bought it or not. I like I want to eventually on 4K if it ever if all these movies come to 4K because I have Ferris Bueller's Day Off on 4K. I would love to get all of them on there. Like The Breakfast Club is on Criterion. It's a fucking Criterion film. Um, but I don't own that Criterion. Um, I own like the regular Breakfast Club DVD or Blu-ray,
I
I
would
think.
probably just, I don't think I own one
What?
because I know that they're all packs. Like you could get the like Breakfast Club, 16 Candles,
Yeah, a DVD
Weird
pack, but I don't think
Science.
I don't. Can you get them on Blu-ray packs?
No, I don't think so. But I don't mind owning those on DVD.
DVD.
That's fine.
You don't need them in 4K. You don't need them in the. Well, you don't have 4K, but if you did have,
No, because they weren't really that nice looking of films to begin with.
I
In
heard the
there,
Criterion looks beautiful for Breakfast Club, which was
I
weird
mean, it's
because it's a
shot like a
movie that
play.
and it's shot inside like basically so it usually has that you'd usually say because a lot of movies I hate the one location but I don't mind one location movies where they're not stuck in one room, right? If they were stuck in that one room, I don't count that as like one location, like if they leave the room, like if they go to
Well, you
like
say for the most part, it's one room or it's
yeah,
one
most of the
location.
part it's like that one location, but then they sneak out and they go check out other things. And
Well, the school is the location, is the one
I,
location.
but I don't really count that. Like I count if it were one room. That's really what I don't like. You know, there's movies like Lifeboat where it's like they're stuck on the boat, but that's like more like a play and it's shot well enough where it didn't bother me. Uh, another 12 Angry Men. I absolutely love that movie. Um, the original. I don't think I ever, even though I own it, I haven't seen the sequel to 12 Angry Men. I want to see that at some point.
13 Angry
So
Women.
yeah. Well, you can't do 13 because it's only 12, right? Only 12 are allowed for jury.
Don't deny somebody being the 13th. I'll cancel you.
Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't mind it. It's just like so Breakfast Club I like. Clerks has that, you know, idea basically. It's takes place mainly at the Quick Stop, but it also goes into RSD video. Just I don't count that, and stuff. So I don't but yeah, I like Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. I don't like St. Elmo's Fire. Um my friend gave me that DVD though. So I have the St. Elmo's Fire DVD. Probably never watch it again, but you know,
I'll take it.
I'm sure you will.
I like the movie, so that's well, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but
I don't know why I think I can't keep it because of the Brat Pack, because of the sentimentality of it, That's why I want it to have it.
I, I might collect some of these and kind of make my own tree with it, kind of like have a bookshelf that just has, okay, here's the core
Like
members,
a
and
collection.
then the second shelf is sub people, and then like the third shelf is kind of like people that they've worked with but aren't considered,
That
kind of
would
do
be a
that
really
thing.
cool like little experiment and stuff. And
Yeah,
it's
because
just like 'cause
I
you order a bunch of movies all the time, show me what you buy and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if one day you're sending me like, hey, look, I got St. Elmo's Fire and I got, all the, because you do Tom Cruise thing a lot. You have like you'll send me pictures of I think just even today you sent me pictures of
yeah,
the uh Tom Cruise ones.
digibooks, yes, that I
Yeah.
got, and it's
And that's really cool.
yeah. I mean, it could be done because you could also kind of do that with like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think that the two quintessential '80s teen movies are Breakfast Club and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, because
Well, that was
I could name those guys. I went to school. This guy hated my fucking guts, and I don't blame him. I used to call him Spicoli because he rode a skateboard. He had Vans. He was the spitting image of Jeff Spicoli, and he fucking hated me. I'm so sorry, dude. If I ever meet you again, I'm sorry. I'll apologize. But that's what was in school. That's what people look like. Were those people in those movies?
we
So
there was one guy that talked about it inside the thing, is like back in the documentary that people would uh people didn't have to watch Pretty in Pink to know what it was basic, to like know that it was like real life, that that was what people were dealing with, and people knew that movie. They hadn't watched it just to know, they knew everything about it, and stuff. And that was the thing. People consume these movies. They watch these amazing films that were at that time, you know, um, were a breath of fresh air. People weren't, like I said before earlier, teen comedies and teen movies and teen dramas weren't. I guess the first big one was like maybe American Graffiti, which George Lucas, showed that side. But really, like, other than like the 50s teen bopper movies or whatever, stuff, or like even the 60s with Ant was it Antoinette or whatever, Annette Funicello and Frankie and Annette. Those things were different, but then all of a sudden, those, like, maybe even American Graffiti started it, because all of a sudden the teens were taken seriously, you know, and everything, and were like given dramas, Another movie, Eric Stoltz might be included in the Brat Pack somewhere or whatever, I think maybe.
I think
But
so.
he was uh he was in that Mask movie, with Cher, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So Cher. And I remember watching that on cable and going, wow, this is like a really good movie. Then later there were movies with kids, and so, and Corey Haim and Corey Feldman could be a part of that. But like there were kids movies that started, like they realized teens were good. Let's get like preteens together and make Goonies, make what is it, Monster Squad, make, all these movies that sort of were like kids, dealing with this stuff. And so I don't know, I think the Brat Pack and everything was very influential on America, and maybe even internationally, but like for sure, definitely America, and what we were sort of, a part of. And so I really liked it. Like, I loved that, you know, that stuff.
There we go. See, and I lived through it all. So
Yeah, I was a little young, but even in high school, people would be like, have you seen Breakfast Club, or have you seen Pretty in Pink? You have not seen Pretty in Pink? You gotta go watch Pretty in Pink. And I'd be like, Pretty in Pink? Like, really? That's a girl movie. I don't want to see that. Right? I'd say that. Like, that sounds like a girl movie. 16 Candles sounds like a girl movie. I watch it, I'm like, this is not a girl movie. This is an everybody
no,
movie.
and these movies would never be made today, especially the way that Grandpa describes Long Duck Dong to the police department. It's, no, he's not retarded. Like that type of stuff would not be done today.
Oh, right, and you can't say that word.
I just did.
I know, but you're not supposed to. That's the thing. That's what they're trying to say these days. You can't say it, which,
Say whatever I want.
but yeah, Paul says whatever he wants, but Paul's a little older than us, and he says whatever the fuck he feels like. He's, are you Gen X? You're Gen X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you two bond on that shit. I'm a millennial. So millennials, we kind of a little, we're the brother to you guys. We don't give a, we sort of like, people started blaming us until they realized Gen Z are way worse. And then they say,
Yeah, that I would
"Mm,
agree on. And
ah, where did my light go? Uh, I think
where'd your what go?
my light, it's dark over there. Uh-oh. Did I get
Is there?
knocked?
Did it go out? Well, we're gonna
Yeah,
wrap this up in a moment anyway, so I
I
can
don't
still
know.
see you.
I know, but it's very dark. Cause
Well, let's
that's
let's
because
let's wrap it up because we're probably at the around the 2 hour mark. So
right, but okay. Anyway, let's wrap it up in the
you know,
dark.
there we go. Mysterious. So, all right. So, anything else you would like to like to say? Or I mean, he gave
No,
a
I
pretty
think it
good.
was. I think people shouldn't have viewed the I don't think they should have viewed this as a problem. I feel like, the Brat Pack, even though they were calling them brats, they weren't. It wasn't that. It was just a cool little, cute little nickname. That's always what I kind of viewed it as.
Man, Andrew McCarthy really wanted the author of that article to apologize. I mean, he
And he did
really did.
not.
And yeah, and he, you can tell he's just like, are you, do you feel bad about it? Do you feel? And yeah, and the guy just wouldn't. That's all his therapy. That's all what's going on in his brain. Like if the author apologizes, then maybe things would be better. But the author's like,
No.
no,
Even
I
if the guy did apologize, he wouldn't have got what he wanted. You know, like he would not have gotten what he wanted from it. His therapy has to be within himself, and he has to accept, like everybody else has sort of accepted, that that it is what it is. Like it happened, but nobody should care, as much.
yeah, just at first it's a thing, and then it goes away, and then you just kind of live the rest of your life. So it was very hyperbolic, and people reacted to it in the wrong way, and
Hmm.
so, but now because of it, we get a good documentary.
Yep.
So there's that. All right, everybody. So that's it. That's our take.
I gotta
Or,
figure out what happened. I might have blown a fuse or something.
well, then we'll.
Oh.
Oh well, at least it's at the end.
At least,
So
yeah, at least it was at the end. Like, yeah, I wasn't in the dark for most of the shit. I really don't like it because I like my thing, but apparently it just went off, and then I'm seeing like no power anywhere. So I'm like, God damn.
oh, are you operating on battery?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
it just happened though. So, and I have all my battery all charged, so
right.
it's not a problem. But I'm just
Well,
like,
let's call it a night, and you can fix that and see what's going on.
hopefully,
Maybe you just have
I
to
might
flip
have
a
to go down
switch.
to, yeah, I may have to go downstairs and flip a
So
fuse. But
okay,
thank you guys, and thank you for
thank
for
you. Well, thank
asking
you for
me.
wanting
Like,
me. Yeah,
yeah, I
for
wasn't
doing this.
sure how, because you never told me how you felt about it. Or wait, did you tell me you liked it? I'm not
I
sure.
said at the beginning, I highly recommend it. I loved it. I wanted it to be longer. I wanted more interviews. My fingers were crossed for people, but because we got Demi Moore, who I thought would be the one not to do it because she's the biggest of all of them.
Hmm.
I'm so glad that she did it, and she had a good sense of humor. So I highly recommend the film. So I think that it's a great documentary, and I'd like to see a second one.
Definitely. I'd love to see a second one too. Like,
Yeah.
or a series. Like I said, again, Andrew McCarthy, if you're listening, hi, I'm in the dark. If you're listening, make it a series, man. Like, if you're gonna do something more with it, if this wasn't enough for you, for your therapy, um, I would suggest making a series and really exploring what has affected you. Because, like, I don't think he really did that enough. Like, I think
He,
what he needs to do is dive more deep into himself. Like, what was it about the name, the Brat Pack, that really made him feel like it stopped him from growing as an artist in some way or another? Even
yeah,
though he's continued to do stuff, he's done stuff, but a lot of it's, guest work on TV or smaller parts in films, you
but I
know?
mean, it would almost be like if there was an article written about you, and then for the next 20, 30 years, it affected me. So it's like the article wasn't about you. Maybe you were mentioned in it. I mean, but Emilio Estevez has gone off to, be a successful actor and director.
Yeah, he was in
So
Mighty Ducks after this and that didn't seem to bother him. Like if you probably
made a lot
said,
of money.
you're part of the Brat Pack, you'd be like, yeah, I was, like, and that's the thing.
Well,
Acceptance is really the answer.
I mean, I guess it's like I said that they're like the equivalent of the Beatles, but for actors in the 80s. The Beatles didn't want to be the Beatles in the 70s. They wanted to do their own thing. It wasn't until later where all of a sudden, it was more accepted. That they kind of, well, John Lennon unfortunately was assassinated in 1980, but the other three guys were a little more, were a lot more Beatles friendly. So it's just
Right.
you want to be your own thing. So it and I guess that's what they had to do at the first, when their agents and managers are saying you guys can't work together because of this article, but then later on realize it's stupid and work together again. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Maybe
So,
they should do another movie together. Maybe that might help Andrew McCarthy out. You
oh my
know.
God, they could do St. Elmo's Fire 2, and it could all be about their kids and how their kids are gay, black, Hispanic,
Right.
trans. It could be the whole thing. And they were raised in the 80s, and they have to try and accept their kids for what they are today. So, and they'll have smaller parts because they're parents. But they'll be featured on the poster. But the kids
Here,
would be the main star. There you go.
here's a good quote, and I hope that
We'll end
I'm
on the quote.
sure. Okay. So, and it's talking about acceptance. All right. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I cannot find serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. You know? And I think if that happens at some point with Andrew, if he can just accept the fact that A was written, so there's nothing you can't change that,
Right.
like it's already been done, it's already been made. Accept it, embrace it, you know, be like, I was a member of the Brat Pack. Like, who cares? Like that's awesome, you know? And if he does that, I think I think he'll get over it. I think that be his therapy. That will be his moment in time, is just knowing that, you know what? Fuck it. I was part of something that was so big. They had a whole name for it, and nobody can take that away from us. Like, you can call us a
Nobody.
brat all you want, but guess what? John Ward's not part of the Brat Pack. Jonathan Moody's not part of the Brat Pack, right? Like, we're not part of the Brat Pack. There was this big thing, this big, like, burst of stuff. And you know what? It really did make a lot of movies, as you pointed out, all these different movies. So I think if he just accepts it, embraces it, and says, fuck it, I'm part of the Brat Pack, I think he'll get over it eventually. It might take some time, but he'll get over it, and then he can move on and with his life, and he can say, and then he can make, hopefully he can get back out there and make, great movies still, you know. Like, I still think he's still doing very well for himself, So I think that should be the way, but that's my opinion.
No, and I completely agree, and I think that's a good spot to end this. So it's good advice and everything for him, and for just people in general who tend to linger on stuff. So especially for
I do that
years.
all the time too. There's some things in my past that I don't like that keep coming back and haunting my visions and my thoughts. You know what? I have to just accept them. Like, that fucking shit happened, and move on, you know?
Right.
And if I can't move on, that means I need therapy to make it move on. And if I can't, if therapy doesn't help, or whatever, I need to do something about it, because you can't keep it inside forever, So anyway, hopefully Andrew figures that out. So thank
I
you,
agree, and I
Jonathan,
hope
for
so
doing
too.
this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Sure. Thank you. Well, thank Andrew McCarthy for making the film, so we can talk about it. So,
Nope.
but all right, everybody, thanks for watching, and appreciate it, especially if you made it to the end. And we'll see you on the next one. Not sure what that one's going to be. I have an idea, but yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.